This is John Miller, and this is a true story of an event that happened or an experience that I had when I was 12 years old. It would have been 1989. The Copperhead, a near-death encounter, written by J.D. Miller. This is a true story that I wrote, shared about a year ago, but edited it, cleaned it up a little bit, and thought I might repost it. Maybe somebody out there would like reading it again. There might be one or two things stretched a bit, but not much. The year was 1989. I was 12 years old, logging with my dad in Washington County, Indiana. That spring, my dad turned 40. The land was rough, steep, unforgiving country. And it was on that trip that I found my first patch of ginseng. Big 3 and 4 prongers. You could probably still go back there and find that patch. I'm sure no one else ever did. Only a fool would have gone down that hole on purpose. Unfortunately, the ginseng was at the bottom of a near vertical slope, right by a clear bubbling stream. That day we winched nearly 100 massive beech and maple trees out of that hell hole. By evening I was so exhausted I could barely crawl, let alone stand. When 5 o'clock finally rolled around, I remembered that ginseng patch. I was already 50 yards down the slope and my dad had pulled out with the skidder. That meant I had to climb the full mile back to the top on my own. I sat there weighing my options. If I climbed down that last 50 feet to get the ginseng, would I ever have the strength to climb back up? I feared not. I hated to leave it, but my legs were useless. I was already belly crawling as it was. I gave the ginseng one long, wistful look. The canyon was deep and dark, and that for a brief moment I wondered if the entrance of hell could be down there. I'd heard the bishop talk about how hot that place was, and I didn't like the sound of it one bit. There was no way. I just didn't have it in me that day, so I started my slow, grueling climb to the top. At first I crawled. After what felt like 2 hours, I was finally near the top. I grabbed onto an old tree root and pulled myself upward, inching forward. I had barely cleared the rim when I heard it, a hiss. My heart dropped. Oh shit, I forgot to watch for snakes. Most days I kept my eyes glued to the ground, always on the lookout for copperheads and rattlers. But today, I had been too bone tired and I had let down my guard, and now I was going to catch hell for it. What happened next? I don't remember clearly. I only know what I was told afterwards. Apparently, I let out a yell so loud it would have put the whole rebel army to shame. Folks said they heard it clear down in Arkansas. My first leap sent tree branches whipping against my face as the wind rushed past my ears. I couldn't see a thing. One moment I was flying through the air, the next I shot up into the clear blue sky with the sun sinking low in the west, only to go right back down into the brush, where limbs snapped and whipped at my face the whole way. Suddenly, my feet hit blacktop. I skidded to a stop and looked around, trying to get my bearings. Up ahead, I spotted a road sign. I blinked. Welcome to the Bluegrass State. Had I really gone and run clear to the state line? Feeling sheepish, I got closer and realized I had misread the sign. It actually said, "Welcome to Wheeler Holler." It was so full of bullet holes it was hard to read. Embarrassed at how far I had ran and how fast I had ran, I started back, and soon as I re-entered the timber, I heard a god-awful racket up ahead. It sounded like something terrible was happening, branches snapping and something thrashing about. I turned and ran again. When I got closer, I saw that all the commotion was about. It was Bob, the guy who ran the little band mill we had set up to cut boards for my dad's project. He had grabbed a good-sized cedar limb and was walloping that copperhead for all he was worth. The snake was tangled up in the evergreens, and the soft limbs were cushioning the blows. Eventually, Bob did kill it. Looking back now, I almost hate that he did. It was a fine specimen of a copperhead, 3 feet long and almost as big as my wrist. You better believe that for the rest of that summer, I kept my eyes peeled for snakes. I ran into a lot of spider webs and slammed face first into more than one hard old blackjack tree, but I never again ran up on a copperhead in striking distance. Author J.D. Miller.